Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you like any of the videos, you like what you're hearing, you like what you're seeing, please hit the like button, subscribe button, share it out. Here we talk any sports, but it's been mainly football. We get some great coaches on here. Anybody that wants to come on and talk some ball, you guys got an offensive play you like, offense you just want to talk about, defense, a drill, anything unique you do, or if it's just as simple as ever and you want to come on here and present or talk, please reach out. I love talking ball. I love meeting people and building these relationships. I'm having fun. So please share this out. Let's get this growing. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you enjoy the channel. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I have another great coach on here with me, Coach Salas. If you guys don't know who he is and you're on Twitter or YouTube, you need to figure out what you're doing on social media. Uh, so, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on this lonely podcast of mine. Uh, for anybody that may not know who you are, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here, buddy. My name is Joe Salas. I'm the head football coach at Hobbton High School. And when people ask me to introduce myself, I tell them I'm an imperfect Christian. I'm a husband. I'm a father, and I'm a football coach. And now I guess I'm a YouTuber and a podcaster as well.
Yeah, I got into it because of quarantine. There was nothing else to do. Had to get on there, and uh, it turned into meeting a lot of good people. That's the great thing of social media. It's bad or good, and I went down the good side of it. I was like, I'm gonna go meet people. I'm gonna go that route.
I
But
agree. It's really been I guess when people who aren't, doing YouTube or podcasting, they always ask you, are you making money? And the answer is no, there's no money, but you meet so many people and you get so many ideas that it's worth millions of dollars just that way. Literally every time I talk to someone, I pick up something, some kind of idea that either makes me better or makes my program better. So it's been just a blessing.
well, I got a lot to live up to then. I don't know what you're going to learn from me, but we'll find out. Uh, so the first question I ask every coach, just to ease into it, is I'm always curious how people get into coaching. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different path. Like I was 15. I was 15, and I said, "This is what I'm going to do." I knew right from the get go. So how'd you get into it? We lose our hair. I got white going on somewhere in here. It's rewarding but stressful at the same time.
Mine's pretty similar to yours. I knew as a junior in high school that that's what I wanted to do. My story is, I was raised in a single parent home and really didn't have a male role model. So when football found me, it changed everything. And coaches became my father figures, and I was blessed that straight through from rec ball all the way through high school, every coach was just a good Christian guy that cared about kids and cared about teaching kids how to be men. And but they did it, in a very random way. Like we all probably did at some point. It just happened to be they'd tell a story at the end of practice that meant something to you. Those kind of things. And so not only did that push me towards becoming a coach, and like I said, in junior year in high school, I knew that I wanted to be a football coach in a small town, and I wanted to make a difference like coaches had done to me. And then as I grew and grew through making a lot of dumb mistakes, I just got fixated by this idea of systemizing, the lessons that we were going to teach the kids. That it wasn't enough to randomly tell some good stories or give some good quotes. I wanted to kind of have like a lesson plan on how we were going to develop these guys and really fill up their toolbox, their man box, so that really, I think, especially high school coaching, it's all about preparing kids for life after football, and get them some things that what was it, Rocky? Nothing hits as hard as life. That everything that we do in football is a microcosm for what's really going to happen. And I heard one time they said, life is not all about football, but football is all about life. So this idea of filling up their toolbox and giving them some tools that they're going to use when life comes at them. When you lose a wife or lose a job, or you get a bad report from a doctor. All those things that can happen in real life. I wanted them to have some things deep inside that they knew they could handle anything that comes through the door. And that's really my passion is teaching boys how to be men and building winners for life.
Yeah, I did my own podcast and I haven't released it yet, but I talked about like, so you want to be a coach. And the first thing I said was, I took it from Coach Hines, know your why, and your why better be the kids. If it's not, reevaluate what you're doing. Because selfishly, we have to enjoy football, but like at the end of the day, it's about the kids. And so I said, reevaluate, like when you have a struggle, like, oh, this is tough, go back and say, why am I doing this? And it's for the kids. You will come back to what you're normal, the stress goes away. And that's a good answer. And I loved it. It took the words out of my mouth. So how did you end up where you are now? So how did you end up at coaching at your high school?
Got fired a bunch of times, got lucky, knew the right people, all the different things that happen in the coaching world. I was raised in South Georgia and married a North Carolina girl. So now I'm in North Carolina. You know how that works. And then this job that I'm at now is 25 minutes away from her hometown. So it was just a perfect fit. They were down and out. They were over, and that Hobbton was a place that was a powerhouse, probably in the 90s and even into the 2000s. And then the demographics in this area completely changed, and man, Hobbton hit some hard years. So they needed someone bad, and I needed a job, and it came together, and it was just the perfect fit. And so it's this heading into our third year, and obviously we're all dealing with the COVID monster, but heading into our third year, and it's been just a perfect marriage. And got great kids, great coaching staff, great principal, great AD. It just all came together after lots and lots of prayers and lots of hard knocks and experience.
Which is the best thing. Sometimes it's better to learn hands-on than it is sit in a classroom sometimes.
Well, Brian Kane says there's there's inexpensive experience and expensive experience. And if you're smart, you can use inexpensive experience. You can use other people's experience to make yourself better. And I guess that's what we do with podcasts and with YouTube stuff. But most of mine has been the expensive kind, where I had to go through it myself and make my own mistakes. But I always tell the kids, every good thing and every bad thing that happens to you makes you better and makes you who you are. And without going through the tough times, the good times wouldn't taste as good. So, and I think that's the story of coaching, and that's definitely the story of football. Football's a tough sport played by tough men, and you're going to get knocked down, and you're going to have to decide. That first time when you really get the wind knocked out of you, and you're kind of looking around, you're halfway hoping the trainer runs out to save you. But you got to decide you're going to get your tail up and get back in the fight. And I think that's how life is, and that's what football teaches. That's why football is the greatest sport in the world. It's because it teaches how to get your tail up and get back in the fight.
Especially during this COVID, where none of us had a playbook to go to, and how are we going to react? And so as coaches, we always told them, like, social media is going to say this, it's going to say this. We fight to play, but we control what we can control. And as long as if you stay ready, don't have to get ready. So we were just like, we're going to do what we can. And our coach told me, I don't have a playbook for this, but we're going to roll with it. And, and here we are doing podcast stuff and doing that.
Well, I really think that, the COVID battle hasn't been as much about COVID as it's been about, and I don't know how it is up there, but, this distance learning has really it's really wore our kids out. They just, and I'm talking about kids in the whole school, not just athletes. They just didn't have the discipline and the organizational skills to really excel at distance learning, and they're struggling. They're struggling grade wise. So that's our big, that's our big fight right now. And we're battling. We're in the middle of our mini camp, and we're battling. We had a grade check, over the weekend, and we had 3 starters that we wouldn't let come out to the second week of mini camp until they got their grades right. So it's just, I think, probably your AP type kids, they're doing fine. They're the ones that are going to go to college and do great. They're doing great in this. There's no struggle for them, but it's your average students and your below average students, man, it's whooping their tails, and we're having the fight, the good fight on, just being disciplined and being a grown man and deciding you want something so bad that you're willing to do whatever it takes to get it. And because it's, heck, I don't know about you, but if I would have been a kid during this time, I would have been struggling. If I could sleep late and go fishing afterwards, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. So that's here. That's been the biggest fight. It's the battle with grades and distance learning. The COVID stuff, it's once they told us we were going to get to play in February, we were good. Let's go. We're working. We're following the rules, and we're waiting for our time. But we got to have them eligible then, and that's the big battle.
Well, and I'm at a school for the first time this year, but I've been coaching for 11 years, which to some people that's not a lot, but to me that's a lot. And like you said, if I was a kid in high school and I knew my Xbox was over there and the TV was over there, that's what I'd be looking at. But these kids, since they're not doing a sport right now, it's easy to slack off. You know what I mean? Like normally they're in football. Like we would have just had our our football playoff show this past weekend to find out who was Illinois playoff. That's how sad. Like I'm like, oh my goodness, football will be almost over. And those kids have nothing really to be like, oh, I'm not playing a sport. Why should I care? And that's the reality of it. And I'm not at the school yet, but like we went there and he goes, there's this list of kids already failing. And I was like, what? And those kids don't realize if you are ineligible now, you won't play in the spring. They won't let you. You didn't pass the quarter. Mm-hmm. So we're dealing with the same stuff. And
I've had the same conversation with my principal, and his question was, well, what can we do, over distance learning to teach them those organizational skills and those discipline skills? And I said, no, this is something we had to be teaching them 7 years ago, that we're so far behind the curve at this point, and what I hope is that this sparks, when we finally get them back, this should spark, the greatest character education boom that's ever happened in public schools, because we've shown that, even our team, which our core principles, toughness and work ethic and all those different principles that we have, we're kids, and thank God that they've come around here. Like I said, we only had 3. If we would have talked a month ago, it would have been the majority of the team wasn't passing. So we've made a comeback, and it's been a daily fist fight to make the comeback happen. But we've got to do a better job with character ed, teaching them the important things of life. That it's not all about state tests. It's about, are we filling their toolbox up with some stuff that's going to get them through this? Because I know this knucklehead, when he was 15, there's no way I would have got through this. It's too easy to, we didn't have Xbox back then. I would have been playing Atari or something. You don't even know what that is, Atari.
Oh, my parents have the original one sitting at home. Yeah. And that's worth some money. So we're keeping that.
Yeah, we would have been playing Atari, shooting ducks and going fishing. So it's I feel for them, but now it's time to we've told them only you can save you. It's D-Day. We got to go. Yeah, and then for us, there's office hours, so we always tell them, like, teachers have office hours now, like at college. So they're trying their best to like
get this done. But those kids are like, oh, that's an hour of free time. I'm not going to get on the computer. So it's, yeah, my parents laughed. They're like, oh, imagine if you were in school right now. And I was like, there's a TV, there's a bike. I will go down to the park and shoot basketball. Like I'm not sitting on a computer for
Be the greatest summer ever, wouldn't it?
it. It's still spring break, in my opinion. We never have gotten off spring break. It's in our school, we still have March calendars up. Nothing's been taken down. It's creepy. Like, oh,
And it's the perfect train wreck because on the other side of it, you got teachers that are worn out, they're stressed out, they're burned out, they're so frustrated and aggravated that kids aren't getting on Google Classroom and doing, they had to learn all these skills that they didn't have before, but they did it. They stayed up late and they figured it all out and they put it out there expecting the kids to jump on board with them, and the kids didn't. So now the teachers are frustrated and fed up, and the kids don't have the skills, and that's a terrible train wreck that's hitting. But anyway, that's a lot of talk about academics, but it's, to me, that's the biggest fight of the COVID was the grade part of it. Once they said we were playing, we were good. We've been moving ahead. We had a Zoom, a virtual spring practice in the spring, and now we get to do mini camp, and we're physically together, but we can't have helmets or any kind of equipment on. But I would have never guessed it, but we've gotten a whole lot better in a week and a half, just with no kind of, you can't even touch each other. And we visually are getting better every single day. So even just, doing that has made a huge difference. And we'll shut it down on Friday, and then basketball will start getting ready for their season. And then we come after basketball this year. It goes basketball, football, and then baseball. So we're good on that end of it. We got to have them eligible. So that's the big fight.
yeah, we're on the same schedule. But today they just said basketball is considered high risk now. So now they don't even know if we're going to have basketball now, or if we are, is it going to happen in December? It might be pushed to January, which means we're going to get pushed back, and then everything's going to. And not to go on a tangent, it's just our state government and our governing body for sports. The state's not talking to anybody. They come out with their own thing, and that's the frustrating thing for us is. They were getting prepared for my friends that head basketball coach. They're supposed to start next week, and now they don't even know. Like,
and the election will play a big part in that. We're a very Republican county, and we're surrounded by Republican counties. So our people are pushing to get back face to face. And and I'm a Democrat, but and I'm afraid of the virus, but I'm more afraid of them grades. We gotta get face to face. So we'll see what the election does to clean everything up.
Yeah, I'm afraid of grades and mental health. I'm not the most social person, but we're not meant to sit in here all day. And so yeah, that's a lot of COVID talk. We could go on for 2 more hours or 3 more hours on just COVID. So I try to watch everybody's stuff. I try to watch your stuff. There's so many coaches that have stuff. I try to watch people's stuff. I know you're air raid. So how did you stumble upon, I'm going to run the air raid? Like, I love it. I love it.
It was an act of God. I when I was a young knucklehead and thought I knew what I wanted to do, I was going to be a flexbone guy. Georgia Southern was in its heyday, and man, I thought that was a deal. And then Hal Mumme got the head football job at Valdosta State, which is where I went to school. And so within probably 3 months, he had brainwashed me, and and that staff. We had Hal, we had Mike Leach, we had Guy Morris. Dana and I were both GAs, so it was kind of the incubator of air raid folks, and so I was actually the second coach in Georgia, high school coach in Georgia that ran the air raid in high school, and been running it ever since. So I've been running it, over 20 years. I've been an air raid guy, and so I always tell people I'm not the smartest air raid guy, but I've got the most experience.
I I grew up in a flex bone offense. Like I always tell people, and I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you picture the Maryland I formation, tight end on the right side, wide receiver to the left, got the running backs. You take that H back right behind and move them to the right or left, and that's what we did, like an inverted flex bone type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the same thing, like I'm going to run the option, I'm going to do this. And then I started researching, coaching in the spread. I found the air raid stuff, and I was like, oh, I like this better. Not your experience, but I just I like it better. And the teams I've been on that have been successful have ran the spread, like some type of spread. Not saying the wing tee doesn't work. Not saying the flex bone don't work. It does, but so I watch your guys' YouTube stuff. You and Coach Mackey for the air raid stuff. I'm like, I got to see what they're doing because I want to bring that stuff to what we're doing.
Well, I'm always one, I don't hate on any offense. There's people winning state championships with every offense. I just think you got to pick something and hang your hat on it. But when I was in that process of, I thought I was a flex bone guy, and then I'm getting brainwashed by Hal. I got the chance to go to I think it was a Nike clinic back then, and Fisher DeBerry was talking. So I went in there, and I mean, you're talking about the guru, and he's drawn up this drill where they had a center, a fullback, and a 3 technique. And it was teaching the quarterback to read that dive key. And that 3 technique is teeing off on the fullback. And I can remember I was sitting there, I was taking notes as fast as I could. I'm thinking, man, that's kind of a tough drill right there.
Yeah.
And then there's film of it, and the fullback's just getting destroyed by this 3 technique coming down, and he's telling about what a great drill it is. I was like, I don't know if I want to. That'd be a tough drill to sell right there, And then at the same time, Monday through Friday, I'm seeing Hal out there, and they're running around with shorts on, throwing the ball around. Everyone's excited, having fun. So I said, yeah, that might be a better sell right there.
Now you need to correct me if I'm wrong, because you're probably the guy to ask. Watching videos and researching, it seems like there is the Hal Mumme way, Coach Hal Mumme. I hate when I do that. I say Hal like I know who he is. Like Coach Mumme has his way of his air raid concepts versus Coach Leach. Now I know a lot of it's the same, but I know Mike Leach just kind of tweaked it and adjusted a little bit. So which way might be better, or which way do you prefer? Like, I don't know if that's the right question to ask, but just for me looking at it, it looks like it's a little different.
Yeah, I think that the differences are very minor. I mean, everyone puts their own flavor on it. I think, Leach is famous for 4 verts, and Hal's famous for the mesh, but they both run them both. I mean, they're just which one do you call more? So I think those 2 are definitely in one family, although some guys might disagree, but I think they're very, very almost identical. And then you got Tony Franklin, who is much more, has been influenced much more by outside forces. So I think those are the 2 that are kind of, I got a sign that says my internet's a little unstable, but I think it's Mumme and Leach, and then you got Tony Franklin are kind of that's where the tree branched a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, you guys know more than I do. I steal. I'm like, okay, they're talking about this, and then you look at it, you're like, oh, I see what they're talking about. Or like Coach Leach puts a lot more on the quarterback to audible and stuff like that. Like, I feel like maybe that's where the difference comes in. Then you always hear, well, Mike Leach just had more Division I jobs, so maybe his way's better. And I'm like, well, no, he was just in it longer, I think. It doesn't make him better.
I think they're both. I mean, Hal puts a lot on his quarterback too. I think back when, Chris Hatcher was the quarterback. Now he's at he was our quarterback, and heck, he called half the game himself. You know, it was just that's kind of their thing, is to give that guy a lot of autonomy, more than I give him now. I don't give him that much autonomy.
Yeah, high school coaches, we don't want to do college. It's a little easier to make those, to do that stuff, unless you have a stud. But uh, so, like I said, I'm gonna go off topic here. So I love watching Coach Leach everywhere he goes. I have Washington State stuff. My Mississippi State shirts ordered. Like, I love watching him. If I could sit down and talk to him for an hour, I would love it. Like, he's the guy. I talked to my friend. He's like, when is Coach Leach going to adapt? And I said, what are you talking about? He needs to run the ball more when this is happening, like with their team. And so, what do you think when guys say, like, he needs to adapt? I'm like, what do you mean adapt? He's going to run what he runs. And he's not going to call run plays. He'd roll over. Mumme would come over and hit him probably. Like, what are you doing calling run plays for?
Well, I think we're all sitting there thinking, man, if he just had counter in, or if he just had this in, you know, he could. They couldn't do what, like I saw. I can't remember. Maybe it's A&M, the way A&M was lined up, and you know, had those super wide defensive ends and one nose. You know, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, they couldn't do that to me because we would run counter down their throat, but that's the reason he's there and I'm at Hobbton. You know, that obviously he's smarter than me, and his way works pretty dang good. I think it's just a matter of getting, and it, you know, I hate to sound like everybody, but getting his people in there and getting the right quarterback, and then it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be like it was the first week. You know, the first week was pretty dang exciting.
Well, and people forget, like at Washington State, it was the same thing. There were some struggles, but it works. It's like any other person. He turns around programs. He and Coach Mumme could turn around programs. That's what they did. That's what they're going to do, and they have a big effect on the game. So it's. I love the run stuff combined with it, but I respect what Coach Leach does, and it works. Like, I don't know what more you want. I had to ask you though. I wouldn't be doing my podcast job if I didn't ask about the air raid stuff. That's,
Well, I mean, I'm sitting there watching it, thinking the same thing. Man, if you just had GT, and they physically couldn't do what they're doing. But I promise you, he's a lot smarter than me, so he'll be fine.
yeah, like we installed ISO, which I know is belly, but it's ISO. And someone said, "Oh, if he just ran ISO right there because he has it, like just double teams and run the ball." And I'm like, "Why don't you go tell him that? I want to see you go tell him that." And they're like, "No, that's all right."
Well, back in the day, ISO, you know, they called it lead, was the number one run because they were much more of a two-back set. But now he's more of a one-back guy. So, you know, his version of inside zone is what they're inside zone, or draw is what they're hanging their hat on. But he'll get it worked out. He's super smart, man. So he's going to get it right.
Yeah, it'll be fine. He's in the SEC, so it's tough to do that. But give him 2 years; it's going to be fine. People are jumping off the wagon. I'm like, no, I'm staying on. I'm on for the ride. He'll be just fine. So I know you're a big culture guy. You're a big leadership guy. So what's different, like leadership stuff you do, or culture building, team building? You know, we'll get in the meat potatoes of it. Like, what's stuff that you do that maybe other people don't do, or what's worked for you?
You know, it's the core principles, I think, are the building culture. We call it the 4 cornerstones. It's mission, core principles, relationship, and process. You know, those are the 4 cornerstones of building culture. And the core principles are probably the most tangible day-to-day part of it, you know, and we've done it. We've stole it from Brian Kane and Randy Jackson, where we tie a core principle to each day. So we've got 5 core principles: attitude, leadership, work ethic, toughness, and family. And we tie each of one of those to a day, so that we've always got a lesson plan, you know, talking about how we started out, talking about those great stories that coaches told, where they told them randomly. Well, now all of ours are more systematic. Every Monday we're going to be talking about attitude all day, and every Tuesday we're going to be talking about leadership all day. We had our quote that went out this morning, and then we had a guest speaker. We had the mayor of the town came out and spoke after practice and gave a leadership talk, and so it systemizes everything that we want to get across to the kids, and then I guess one of the more tangible things is we do 2 community service projects a year. So we just last Saturday, we did it basically between the Saturday between the 2 weeks of mini camp, where we went to downtown Newton Grove. It's almost as big as Chicago, just a little smaller. And we did a trash pickup. We met in the center of town and went out each direction and picked up trash, and then helped hang up the Christmas lights, for the town. And then in the fall, normal fall, we do a cancer car wash in October and donate 100% of that to the Cancer Society. So and I don't know how you guys are, but I couldn't stand when kids were wearing pink in October and we hadn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stand it. So now we have one pink night where you can wear all the pink you want, but we also do that car wash so that we're donating $1,000 to Cancer Society and actually doing something about it. So we've earned the right to wear that pink. And so that's been a big deal for us. And now we got to figure out how we're going to do that in February, but so we're kind of reversed. This community service would have been in the springtime, and then the car wash is in the fall. But just the big one is kids spell love TIME, and you got to spend time with them away from football, and that's that's one of the biggest things that we believe. So we try to do stuff. Normally during spring ball, the first Friday, we have a huge sleepover where they meet up at 5 different houses by position, and they all have a sleepover, and they got to send me a picture at midnight that of all of them, and that's a bonding thing. And we take them, have a senior trip in the spring where we go visit a spring practice with all the seniors, and so just any way we can do stuff with kids away from football, and at the same time sing the song and sell the message that this thing's about teaching boys how to be men and build winners for life, and it's about putting tools in the toolbox that are going to carry them through life, and that's so that's the big one. I'm having some internet. That's
Still
on my
got you.
Sorry
No, you're
about
all
that.
good. You're all good. This is raw and uncut. I am not too worried.
You got me.
I got you.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. It's saying it's my internet's unstable, so it's my side that's doing that.
No, this is raw and uncut. I am not too worried about it.
Let me do what you did and turn off my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I learned that.
All right, let's see if that helps. So sorry about that. I can't remember what we were talking about culture, but
no. When I was in high school and I was first coaching, the last week of July we'd have a full week of camp, and each day we would do something. So we did like an egg toss. So they go on top of the press box, they throw down the egg, and you got to catch it without breaking. We did watermelon eating contest. We did relay races, and if we raised money in the summer, we'd go watch the Bears practice their camp or whatever. It was open to the public. We went to Canton Hall of Fame, College Hall of Fame, and Uh, we would go
Now, who was
and
doing this? That's like ahead of his time. Who was your head coach?
his name's Coach Denhart. We grew up in it's a small town of like, my high school was 300 kids. Uh, and in the summer, one of the gas stations is right on the interstate, like right off the interstate. And so what we did was we go pump gas. So it's going to sound creepy, but bear with me. We'd get permission from the gas station owner, and we'd stand at the pumps, and we'd go up to people and say, "We're raising money for the Oakwood football team. We're pumping gas for you while you go buy something. We'll wash the windows of the car, or whatever, for any amount of money." We would do stuff like that, and we raised a lot of money. Like one summer, we got to go to that trip, and he bought a new flat screen TV for us to watch film on. And flat screens back then were like big time. Like, oh my goodness. Uh, for the cancer thing, not that school, but I started coaching. Uh, we would do like a grill night. So we grill, someone would donate some meat, and that money would go to cancer research. So like that particular night, all that money, the booster club would say, okay, we're gonna work with the football team. It gets donated. Like, so you guys can wear your pink, kind of like what you guys do. Uh, so those were fun. When I was in high school and coaching, doing those team trips were pretty fun. You earned it. You know, you were there all summer. You raised the money. Uh, those were fun. It was only a couple days, but it was something
Well,
that you could do.
that's way ahead of their time. I mean, that's fantastic. That's exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And the last one we're doing social justice speakers every day after practice. We're bringing a different police officer, our school resource officers, kind of heading it up. So we got a different, like, making sure we got diversity as far as police officers coming in, and just having some of those uncomfortable conversations that I think it's going to take to get through this thing. That the way I describe it to the kids is, Hobbton's my favorite football team, but we still got to get a lot better. And the same thing happens in our country. I think America is the greatest country in the world, in the history of the world, but we still got to get a lot better. And I know, we don't have a whole lot of minority kids, but I've had at least one come every day after practice and just say, "Coach, thank you. This is really means a lot to me." So, it's just like you're talking about when you were in high school. It's just doing a little extra to build a thing, and obviously, when you're talking about culture, you're talking about the behaviors you create. It's you were describing team bonding, which is way ahead of its time. What your coach was doing is way ahead of his time, but it's team bonding and then some, and that you're trying to create the behaviors that championships have, or champions have, and that means having an elite work ethic. It means having an elite level of leadership. It means having an elite attitude, and it means having a unique and I know as 11-year coach, this one. Your best teams aren't always your most talented teams, but they're always the most unified. They're always the closest, the most tightly bonded. When you get that situation where the whole is bigger than the parts, that's the key to winning championships. So that's why family is such a big deal to us. We just call it family, and it's about believing in each other and having each other's back. And that's when we started the whole social justice thing. That's what we said is, our black players, they got to know that we got their back. And, we have a lot of Hispanic kids, and we had a Hispanic police officer come out yesterday, that the kids got to know we got their back and we care. And that's the biggest part of, of changing things, is everyone's got to care.
Mm-hmm. And doing that stuff when I was in high school, I could call those football players up right now, and I haven't seen them in a year or two, and we could talk for hours, just because. And you talked about it's the heart that wins. I'll never forget. I was playing. We had a more talented team, and we lost the first game by 1 point. And I'll never forget. They were just hitting us harder. We had more talent. They were just hitting us harder. And when I started coaching, I always remember stuff like that. Like, it's the person that tries the hardest and is bought in and tries and all that good stuff. And another thing I thought of when I was coaching at Charleston High School, they would always do the community would do a run for the fallen. So like, for veterans and stuff, you put down a flag on the football field. Like people, if you had a family member or something, you put a flag down to represent them. And we would practice, and then we'd have the football players go run a mile together just for them to have that. And kids to this day still remember that stuff. They're like, "Oh yeah, we did this or whatever." And uh, if I talk to a player from 5 years ago, "Oh, I remember we did this. I remember we did this."
It's
And
funny, I told you we had a guest speaker today at the end of practice. He's our mayor of our town, and he played at Hobbton, and then he went to Wichita, Kansas, where he played college ball, and then he played for the Seattle Seahawks, and he was saying he's in his 60s now, and he was saying they just had their reunion, their 40th reunion, I think he said, and it was right before COVID, and he said those players, it was like, even the ones you hadn't seen in 40 years, it was like it was yesterday that you fell right into it, and there's just a bond there that, it's like no other. And it's a football's, it's a big deal. It's more than a game, and it imprints and impacts a man for the rest of his life.
yeah, and I keep going back to stuff. I'm remembering little. See, now it's coming back, like what we were doing. My third high school in 2018, when we actually start practice, you practice at the high school for a couple of days. Then there was where I can't remember where we went. We went somewhere. We'd stay there for 3 days, and we'd have football practice there. They brought all their stuff, and we had football practice there. And then people would come out there and you do team building exercises. You had people come out and do that for you. And that was a huge experience. And that year, I'm not saying it was because of that, but I think it's stuff like that. We went 9-0 that year. We ended up going 10-1. And that was the best record that school had since 1999. Never won the conference before, never had a home playoff game. And that coach, he's only been there for 6 years, and he does stuff like that. And it's eventually gotten to that point now. So now he's been 10-1, 9-1. Like it's showing that, and he will do that forever. He's like, it's a pain, to be honest with you. It's a pain to go do that, but like the result is so much better to see those kids bond and have football practice somewhere else and come back and be like,
there's magic in summer camp now. Magic happens at summer camp.
It does. And I never
and that's, and the magic really happens, of course you get 10 million reps, and of course it's 10,000 degrees out there. But I always thought the magic happened, after lights out, when kids are sneaking into each other's room and they're sitting, of course, everyone's going to win a state championship that year, and they're becoming friends, and they're dreaming about, greatness coming in the season, and they're truly getting to know each other. There's nothing like summer camp, man. That's magic happens.
I know. A part of me kind of like at first this summer, it's like, a part of me was like, I get to relax, because I thought this was not going to go on as long as it did. And then about June-ish, July, I was like, we need to go back. Like, this is not going to be, I miss summer. I don't like being hot, but I was like, I kind of miss going out there, and the look on the kids' faces, we got to see them in July, the look on their faces, they needed it. And so it just breaks my heart when they can't be around each other. And one coach here in Illinois, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's won 2 state titles. He's been coaching for 22 years. He said this was his highest attendance percentage and the highest kids he's ever come out for football. And it's because they won it. And he does a lot of the same stuff you're talking about for team stuff. And it's crazy what a sport can do to do that.
Mm-hmm. And it's a special game anyway, but it's, when you just do the little bit extra, it impacts kids. It imprints. We talk about, you got 4 years that's going to impact a kid for the next 40 years. And, you can do it yourself. I'm sure even up there, you go to McDonald's and they got the Amen corner, where the old guys are sitting over there drinking coffee, and, if you'll just listen to them, before long, one of them's going to start quoting what their coach said in high school. These guys are 60, 70, 80 years old, and they're still quoting, and that's a reminder to the coaches that, long after you're in the ground, there's going to be kids quoting you. So you might want to, be more cognizant of what they're going to be saying. What are they going to be quoting you? Because they're going to be talking about you long after you're gone. And that's that 4 for 40. You're going to impact them for 40 years. You're going to impact their kids and their grandkids by what you teach them now. And so, how about we teach them to be loyal and to be hard workers and to be dependable and to be tough? Because, we preach this to our kids all the time. Life can be tough, but it's a whole lot tougher if you're soft. If you're a tough guy, life gets easier. But if you're soft, life gets harder. It's almost, if you're looking to be a victim, you're going to get victimized a whole lot. You got to be looking to be a conqueror. And we tell our kids, that you are not a victim, you are a conqueror. And that just that attitude to go through life with is going to make a difference. And that don't mean you're looking for a fight. That just means you got what it takes to face any challenge. And it doesn't matter what comes through the door, you're ready. And I think that's what football gives you an opportunity to teach kids.
Yeah, and if you can learn from it, that's the big thing. If you're going to get hit and learn from it, and football teaches that, sports teaches that, and as long as the coaches instill it and they go on after 4 years, and something's going to happen. Something's happened to your house. You got to pay that bill. You got to work hard to get that fixed or do something. As long as you can do it, that's why we do this. And that's why I knew at 15 years old what my coach did for me and all that stuff. I was like, this is what I'm going to do, and love every moment of it. And I may not be successful. I may not be a head coach, but I'm doing my part and being the head coach of what I can control. And that's the way they go about it.
And it's one of those where there's so many layers to it. Your why even has so many layers. You got to love the game. You got to believe the game's the greatest game in the world. You got to love that you're gonna make a decent living your whole life, and you're gonna have retirement when you're done, and you're gonna get to wear shorts to work every day, and have fun. How many people do you know that they don't enjoy what they do? And and we probably get in trouble with our wives sometimes because they think we're just having fun all the time, but it's because we got a fun job, and it's fun and important at the same time. And then when you put the last why on top of it, that you're going to impact kids the way your coach has impacted you, and you're going to change things for kids. And we could go so in depth. Especially today, if a kid doesn't commit to athletics, he could literally graduate from high school never having committed to anything in his whole life. And just that instant gratification world that we live in, football is the opposite of that. You really do. You got to lift weights all year long to be ready for that one game where it's all going to come down to you having to beat another man's tail. That's what so that's a lot of work for one Friday. But that's what it teaches you, is that it's delayed gratification, it's an investment, and it's work ethic, and it's having each other's back, and being at your best when things are at their worst. I mean, that's all the things that football can teach. And again, I think it's important. Football doesn't teach that by itself. The coach has to teach that on purpose. Football, it does a great job of revealing character. It doesn't build character by itself. If you got a shitbird, guess what? Go ahead and get down by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and you look on the sideline, and he'll be acting like a shitbird.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a great kid, let him get down by 3 touchdowns, and he's going to be out there fighting till the last dog dies. It reveals character. Our job is to build the character, to teach them the behaviors and the tools that they need, because in life the going gets tough sometimes.
Yeah, and it teaches a lot of responsibility too, like you were talking about with grades, responsibility. Like I don't know if this is relatable. Like, again, my coach may have been ahead of his time, so shout out to him. I always sometimes talk to be like, how do you pick captains? Like, how do you go about captains or whatever? And what he would do is he'd have summer. We'd go through two-a-days, which kids don't know what two-a-days are anymore. It's not the same. I think like the fourth day, we had to stay at practice in between because he didn't want anything to happen to us. So we had this locker room, we stayed. And he said, okay, today you're gonna vote for your captain. So one at a time, you go into the office and all the coaches are sitting there and they say, who do you want to be a captain? Oh, I want so and so, so and so, and so and so. And then they would start asking you questions like, well, why'd you pick Steve? And what's the answer? Oh, he was at weightlifting all the time. Well, they're showing up, get the job done all the time. Oh, well, why'd you pick so and so? Oh, they're a good player. Well, why? Like we'd have to give him an answer as a player. So by the time you were a junior and senior, you kind of knew what was going to happen, but like you looked at it different though. If you were a freshman and sophomore, you really started to look at like who is there because of the program, who's there to help, like who's the player you're going to go to battle with. And I've told some coaches that, and they've stolen it and went with it because they're like, oh, it's up to them. You're giving them responsibility. You're giving them, what kind of leader are they looking for, and so I don't know if my coach was ahead of his time, but that's kind of what we did. And
He's definitely ahead of his time. How is he still alive?
he is. He's I don't want to say he's 50. Maybe he's in his 50. I don't know. He don't coach no more. He decided to stop coaching. He said, let the young guys do it. There's just a lot of stuff. And but yeah, he doesn't coach anymore, but I could call him and ask him stuff, but that's what he was doing. And then I helped him coach. I was volunteering. So I got to be on the other side. I was in the office watching this happen. And so I saw both sides of it of like, oh, this is what you were doing to us as a player. Like now I'm understanding, like, and coaches have taken that from me, like, oh, that's a good idea. And they've taken it. So I have to give him props. Like he did some things I don't think people did back then.
No, that's way ahead of his time.
Now we didn't win any state titles, but I mean, he was trying. That's all he could do was try to do that. And so I always said, if I'm a head coach, I'm probably going to do that, like something like that. Because it's easy for us as coaches to say, "Oh,
myself."
Well,
That was
because
that idea I told you about. See, there's always one great idea.
So I lived up to the hype. I gave you an idea.
You did it.
But yeah, because he said it's easy for a coach to say you're the captain, but then it's on us as coaches. Like we pick them. Now it's up to them. And another reason why I'll go with this, and I'll tell you why. I was a coach there my second year. The kids were coming in, and one kid came in and said, "I want so and so. I want Jim, and I want Bob." He walks out. About 5 kids come through, maybe 10 kids come through. All of a sudden, he comes back in, and he's missing half of his hair. And we're like, what just happened out there? He goes, I don't want Jim to be a captain anymore. And we said, why? He goes, I was trying to sleep because you have 3-hour or 2-hour break. He goes, I was trying to sleep. He comes up and shave part of my head. That's not a leader. I don't want him. And it's funny. I was laughing because I was 19.
I can see your point.
I was 19 or 20, so I'm kind of laughing. I'm like, yeah. But that kind of showed him like that kid. He said he looked at that kid as, oh, he showed up every day in the summer. Well, that's just a 10% of it. And so that kind of stuck with me. And that's why I tell coaches that's what we did. And that's what I'm going to do. Like it stuck with me like that. This process works to pick your captain or your leader. And so it's a funny story to really go along with it.
Well, it's stolen.
And then I know a coach that stole that, but people had to apply, like people would give them resumes and it teaches how to do resumes and all that stuff. And they kind of try to combine it a little bit, but I like them coming in and like you're interviewing them for the other person. Like, well, why? And you're questioning them.
Yeah, I keep seeing one of the podcasts. I can't remember what it's called, but the guy's selling that. He's selling that at the end of the podcast. He has something on Coach Too where he sells that captain process. But it's like the second one you're talking about, where they apply and they got to go through the interview, which it sounds awesome too. But I kind of like yours better.
Well, there you go. It's for free. I'm not selling it. It's for free.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll start to. I'm taking all your time. We can start to wrap up a little bit. So, how did you come up with your YouTube and your podcast? What kind of led you to do that?
The YouTube, I was wanting a job. So I had all this, air raid knowledge, and I said, well, man, let me just try it. At the beginning, I was just filming on my iPhone and putting it up there, and then I immediately got a job. So then I was like, well, do I still want to keep doing this? And luckily, I decided to keep going, and like I said, it's just the people you meet and the ideas you get are just they're priceless. So that was that part of it, and that's basically air raid and offense more than anything. And then the culture thing is just I always tell people, the YouTube's for everybody, but the podcast is for me because I just I have a passion to get better and to hear how other people do it. To me, you talking about your high school coach, that was fascinating to me, especially someone that was doing that way ahead of his time on those ideas. And I just love hearing how people do it, especially when they're doing it at a high level, because I think it's almost an untapped area. So few coaches even care. I always say it's similar to special teams. Everyone says is important, but how many people really invest in special teams? Really want to be elite at special teams, and if you are one of the ones that want to be elite, you find out pretty quick that you win a lot of games on special teams. But it's so hard. And the reason people don't get good at it is it's so hard to practice. How do you practice? You don't have any good drills. How do you practice? And that was culture. I knew it was important, but I didn't know how you do it. How do you practice it? And then the upside is so big. If you can build an elite culture, man, you're gonna go. And so that's why the podcast is for me. I just wanted to talk to the best people out there and steal their ideas, and anyone who listens to the podcast, they get to steal their ideas along with me.
Yeah, I originally did it because I love ESPN stuff. I want to talk about sports. COVID happened, so there was no sports. And then it turned into I want to talk to coaches and learn and meet people and so it turned into that and free therapy. I need to start charging people for this therapy if it's always going to be free, I guess. I forgot to ask this question, so I'm going to ask you. So you're a raid guy. So do you do the 3-day install stuff, or is it any different?
We do a 4-day.
Okay.
Yeah, and COVID time it came in pretty handy being able to do it. So we just finished day 3 of the second week. So we've gone through it almost 2 times already.
What's your favorite? Which one's your favorite passing play?
I'm a big slant shoot guy. So we have a mirrored combination where we throw slants on the outside and shoot routes on the inside, and running back does a middle check, and we kind of read it across the field. So it's slant on one side, then slant on this side, and then shoot on that side. So it's the one that's been the best to me in pressure situations over time.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to ask that earlier. I was like, I need to ask what they do, and I'm not doing my job if it's not X's and O's at some point.
Well, air raid guys, as long as you're throwing it, they're happy. So it doesn't really matter what concept.
Yeah, because Coach Sheffer, who you talk to, I'm always on his program profile, and I'm the spread guy in that group. So they poke fun at me, and but anytime we talk spread, like, well, let's ask Steve. He knows Steve. And I'm not a true air raid. Like, I've never been on a team that runs true air raid. Like, we still have some run plays. Like, at school I was at, I'll never forget, we ran trap 10 times in a row and scored. Because they spread the box out. So what were we going to do? We trapped. And I said, guys, I don't throw the ball all over the place. We still run. I'm the run game coordinator, for goodness sakes. Like, we're going to run the ball a little bit. Power and power read and all that stuff. But they poke fun at me because they're wing team guys.
We ran the ball for 3,000 yards this year. So we were So we're a big we'll run it the same play over and over again if you let us. So we're the same mindset.
Oh man, that was our head coach. I remember it. What's open? Trap. All right. What's open? Trap. Okay. About the fifth time. Are you sure it's open? I was like, yes. 5 yards, 10 yards a pop.
That works.
That'll
That'll work all day, won't it?
It worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't reinvent what's already invented and all that stuff. Well, Coach, I took a lot of your time. We talked about a little about everything. I know we could go on for hours and hours, but I appreciate you coming on. Tell people where they can find your YouTube stuff and all that good stuff.
Well, number one, I appreciate you having me. I've listened to your podcast several times, and I've heard you on the other one on the program breakdowns. So now I get to put a face with it. I'm at on YouTube. I'm at Coach Joe Salas, and the YouTube one is mainly an air raid channel, and then the podcast is Championship Culture Podcast. And that's on all the different, everywhere you can get a podcast, it's on there. So, and the podcast comes out every Saturday morning, and the YouTube channel comes out every Tuesday. And it's fun. I always got good, like you, I always have good people on there, and I just listen to them and let them teach me so I can steal their ideas.
Well, I'm glad I gave you one. I was worried when you said that, like, oh, I got to reach in my toolbox there and
You
find
did,
some.
you came through.
I had to reach real deep for that. That was 2006 when I played. Like, that was going way back.
Well, you picked a good one, man. I'm stealing it.
Well, again, thank you for being on here. Guys out there, stay safe. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.